Story 1. Like the father of a friend of mine, he was 90, still had all his wits about him, but his body was failing. He was in the hospital, had the whole family, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren all in the room, and he just drifted off to sleep and didn't wake up. I want to be more like 120 because I have things to get done between now and then, and need more time. Story 2. Out on a boat trip and killed by a killer whale. They don't kill humans in the wild. I want to be the first. I haven't done anything worth noting alive, so make my death fun and known. Story 3. By my wife's hand. Don't get me wrong. I'm a good husband and father of 2. No issues whatsoever. But I feel I didn't live up to my end of the bargain. I got cancer, and even though we're battling through this, it doesn't get the satisfaction of taking me out after knowing me for a short period of time. My wife has seniority. Story 4. I would like to be high when I die. Drunk or on opiates, on benzodiazepines, on dissociatives, on anything that eases my mind. When I was an alcoholic in my 20s, we often had feuds and conflicts with other people, and I often stayed drunk in case I got stabbed, attacked by a group, or my door got kicked in or something. It was also in the back of my mind that I wanted to die high, so I drank every day. Story 5. Curled up next to my wife after a great day with our kids and grandkids. With breakfast planned in the morning, we kiss each other goodnight, and we never wake up. Story 6. Quickly and painlessly. My worst fear is losing my mind. I don't want to put that on anyone, so if I even sense a hint of it, I'm traveling around my country to visit the people I want to visit, do the things I want to do, and then I'm dying quickly. Story 7. There was a professional golfer on a private flight. He, the pilot, and a friend, maybe 2, were on board. Unknown to everyone on the flight, the seams of the windows were leaking oxygen. They all fell asleep and died of anoxia. They broke a record for cross-country unmanned flight, and then it left a crater in the desert. That's what I want. Or spontaneous combustion. I would settle for peacefully in my sleep, though. Story 8. I want to be in the skies and then fall into the ocean freely, with my eyes open, looking at the world one last time as if thanking it for everything I had, and going anywhere in the ocean, die suffocating there or however it would be. I don't care, but just want it this way. Story 9. Putting up a fight. I see a lot of people saying they want to pass away without a struggle, but I want to make sure that I die flamboyantly and loud. That is if I get murdered. If I die naturally, I'd want to die of a heart attack. Stupid, I know, but that's how I want to die. Story 10. Once I can't take care of myself, become terminally ill, or get extremely old to the point where I'm a burden, I'm choosing to leave this world on my terms. I'm going to be in full control of when I go, unless tragedy strikes first, like an accident or something unexpected. Story 11. The best-case scenario would probably be quickly and relatively painlessly by an accident in my late 60s or early 70s while I am still physically and cognitively intact up to that point. I most likely won't have a family of my own, and I am rather estranged from the one I have right now, so my career and hobbies will fill my life. After retirement, and since my hobbies rely on intact cognition and fine motor skills that often suffer in older age, I fear that my quality of life is going to plummet rapidly, and I'd hate to have a slow, painful death. I'm a huge crybaby and not a fighter. Story 12. Cancer. I have about 20 more years before I get it, hopefully, seeing as it runs heavily, especially in the women. I plan to do no treatment, as my grandmother and her sister both had cancer 3 times and died the 3rd time. Their other sister has it for the 2nd time. She is the healthiest of all her siblings and one of my favorite people on the planet. My body would not be able to handle chemotherapy or radiation. Watching my grandmother, who was decently healthy before the first cancer diagnosis, drop from maybe 150 to 77 pounds over the entire course of her life after the first diagnosis was not something I want my daughter or fiancé to see for me. Story 13. Maybe at 70 to 80 years old, with children and grandchildren, hoping not to suffer from illness because I don't want to become a burden to my kids. I would have lunch made by my daughter, take a sip of wine, and listen to Gymnopédie number 1. Take a nap and just peacefully go. An absolutely perfect outro for me. I don't want to see my family around me because I don't want my loved ones to be sad. Story 14. Going out on my terms because natural causes and disease. I'd get dressed up and party before going to eat. Taking a walk on a bridge at night while the sky is that nice deep blue with stars everywhere and I'd just jump. Story 15. The same way as my grandfather. An undiagnosed brain issue which caused a sudden but painless death. It would be awful to die like the passengers on his bus. Story 16. I just want to die after my mother dies. I do not have any dreams or aspirations as society seems too manipulative and cringe, while life seems meaningless. So I just want to take care of my mom by working and earning money. When she dies, I will realize that it is time to resign from life. I do not care how I die. I just want it to happen fast and painless if possible. Story 17. I want to die at sea. On my own terms, when the time is right, I wish to die by drowning in the ocean. I've talked about this with people several times before, and they always comment on how that's a horrible way to die, a slow, almost painful death. I do not care. I enjoy the fear the sea brings me. It's so terrifyingly beautiful. It's so haunting, but so calming. I've always wanted to be deep, deep in the water, and I wish for my body to be torn and consumed by life at sea. I feel like that's where I'm meant to be. I've had actual dreams about it, even falling into the water, being unable to breathe, waking up with sleep paralysis. It's horrifying, but somehow I'm always hoping I dream of it again. Another very strange thing, I think I've heard at least 3 separate occasions of people telling me that they dreamt of me drowning or getting washed away by waves. Almost feels like it's meant to happen one day. Story 18. To die honorably in battle or while defending yourself and your family, or even others, is the most noble of all deaths. Sadly, only a few go this way. Most of us will end up in palliative care, curled up in a fetal position, the mind gone, with intravenous hookups and soiled diapers. Story 19. As soon as I knew my time was coming, I would get up and get into my car. I would drive to a special place with a beautiful view. I would lay down, stare off into the distance, and just reminisce about everything I had done. I would likely feel regretful for a while, but eventually I would come to terms with it. I would lay there on that mountain alone. The only thing I would want in my final moments is knowing that those who knew me remembered me as the lively, strange, and eccentric person I was, not a rotting soul. In my final breath, I would look at the sky and close my eyes, all the noise in my head finally being put to rest, silence enveloping my mind. Story 20. I would like to really live well first. I cannot stand people who sit around talking about how they want to die. There are actual times that talking about dying is important. If you know, then you know. Anyways, get out there and live today. Get some fresh air and a lollipop from the bank. Story 21. Suddenly, quietly, in my sleep, before any kind of dementia or serious health issues hit and I become a burden to anyone and before I get trapped in a failing body. Story 22. Slowly, like from cancer or something similar. Not something sudden like a heart attack or in my sleep, so I know my time is coming and I get to say goodbye. Story 23. My dream is that once I turn 45, I want to move to the wilderness in Sweden or other Nordic countries. I want to write books and read books. At age 55, I want to be sitting near my cabin having coffee or milk. I want to have a heart attack without anyone knowing I died, and let my body turn into ashes, decomposing in nature. Story 24. Right before I would go into boring, painful hospice care and be a burdensome person, I want to throw a massive party on the edge of a cliff and jump off at the end. Story 25. Somewhere peaceful and beautiful. Not in a hospital room or anything like that. I just want to sit peacefully up against a tree, looking out over a pond or some kind of landscape and drift away as I listen to the natural sounds of my environment. Story 26. Hopelessly outnumbered by aliens or androids in a heroic final stand on a foreign planet while the team I arrived with narrowly escapes with the critical objective. Story 27. I want to go down fighting one way or the other, either fighting a disease like cancer and going down in flames until my body gives out, or in a gunfight or something like that. Story 28. I want my last day to be the day I decide to go. No business left unfinished. Leave as little footprint. I don't want to be remembered. Not old but not young. Out in the sea or forest alone and ready. I don't want my body to be found like a cat. Story 29. Feeling accomplished, like I did enough. I don't care how, just as long as I am content with the life I lived and that I did all the things I wanted to do. Story 30. Probably when I'm over 100 and just go quickly with minimal pain. I want to spend my last few years with my family and friends, just enjoying life. Story 31. Before 60, okay if sooner and at home. Don't want others to be there, obviously. And maybe just during sleep. Have a lot of heart issues in my family, so who knows? It may just work. Story 32. On my own terms. Assisted dying is being debated in the United Kingdom at the moment, and I absolutely want to be able to hit the eject button. If I can't wipe my own arse and am living with painful cancers at the end of my life, I want to go gracefully from a massive morphine shot. Story 33. Well, I was thinking of filling my metal bottle with gunpowder and biting down on it as I light the fuse, but a neutron star flash vaporizing me would be nice, or ground zero of a nuclear bomb. Either way, I have to figure something out when things get bad enough. Everyone should have a plan B if artificial intelligence reaches singularity status. Story 34. Doing something dumb on some grand adventure. I'm talking about cliff diving, eating something exotic that may or may not be venomous, or a ziplining accident. It would be grand, it would be chaos, and provided I was entirely focused on whatever dumb nonsense I was doing, I wouldn't see it coming. Story 35. Not like I think if I die old, I probably won't be surrounded by people I love or anything like that. It's more likely I'll die alone in my bed, hopefully quietly, but again, it's probably something painful like a terminal cancer. So that's why I want to die for something greater than myself, rescuing someone from a burning building level of action dying. Story 36. After I finally write down all my accounts and passwords for my wife and kids, I'm pretty content with death. I'm more concerned about not having an easy transition for my family. P.S. Throw my body in a dumpster. Don't waste family money on ritualistic services. Story 37. Catastrophically. I want them to question how it happened. So, where is the victim? Well, if you will follow the flashlight, there is some of him here, here, over there, and possibly some here, here, and here. Story 38. Like my friend's mother-in-law, they took her on a vacation trip with all her loved ones, and one day, she laid down and never woke up. Everyone had been having such a nice time. Story 39. Lightning strike. Falling a very long distance might also be interesting. Long enough that I accept it and stop screaming, and can maybe analyze how I handle knowing about my imminent demise. Story 40. I don't think that peacefully in your sleep exists. I want to live as long as I can. I may die of unexpected causes. But if I make it to old age and get a cancer diagnosis, I'll squeeze out as much as I can then. Shotgun to the back of the head. Probably horrifying for everyone else, but I think it's probably the quickest, least painful way. Like pulling a light switch. Story 41. I have a pretty amazing story I'd like to share. I was 21, living my best life, carefree with little responsibility. That spring, I woke up one day and decided I wanted to visit my grandparents in Florida for Passover. I called my grandfather's sister and told her to pack her bags. We're driving the 20 hours to surprise them. A few hours later, we're on the road. We arrived on their doorstep, and it was everything it was supposed to be. My grandmother immediately got on the phone to call my dad. Dad said he and his wife were getting on a plane. They'd be there tomorrow. She called my uncle in California, and he decided he was going to fly his family in too. It spread like a virus. Within a couple of days, we had a huge Seder with over 20 cousins. Family came in from all over on the spur of the moment. It was one of the best times of my life, a random family reunion. Everything was perfect. Eventually, everyone went back home, but my aunt and I stayed for another 2 weeks. On the morning we were to leave, I woke up to my grandmother shaking me. "Your grandfather is not responding." I ran to his room to find him in that classic baby's sleeping position, hands clasped together under his head. He was gone. He worked hard his whole life and died, leaving his wife with as much security as one could possibly need. He got to spend his last days with the most important people in his life and went out sleeping like a baby. We should all be so lucky. What are the chances? I caused a family reunion for the patriarch in his last days. I feel pretty lucky too. Story 42. My grandfather died peacefully in his sleep. He was fine and happy the night before. He had dinner, like many nights before, a glass or two of wine, as he often did. He gave my grandma a kiss and went to bed as he had done so many times before. The next morning my grandmother got up as usual. By 9 a.m., she thought it was odd he was still asleep. He had died in his sleep, peacefully, without a care in the world. Story 43. The euthanasia coaster sounds like the worst best time of your life, and of all the ways to die, it seems like one of the quickest and least painful. Story 44. I want to die at the age of 90 surrounded by my beloved children and grandchildren. I want to see them laughing and having fun. I want to die looking at them, knowing I did well with my life, knowing I raised incredible people, and that I did more good in the world than bad. Knowing that I will be missed, hearing them tell each other, "He was a good father and a good man." Story 45. I do not want to die ever. This is not a cool thing where I summon some brave last words, some fearless defiance in the face of death behavior, and a stoic attitude. This is a terrifying battle for the continued existence of my consciousness, and I already know I will lose. Story 46. I hope to be able to tell my wife and kid goodbye one last time before I slip peacefully away, and then cremate me and spread my ashes in places we've all had memories together.